Welcome to Geek Philosophy, where we love geeky wisdom, and welcome to this Guardians of Getica campaign setting livestream. If you're joining us for the first time, this is where we go through together the setting development process with everything we've been working on so far for the Guardians of Getica campaign that's designed specifically with kids in mind and families. So we jump in every week, or so far it's been every week, to making some edits and getting some feedback live from the playtesters that are out there working on some things. And then I get a chance to share some things with you that I've been working on. So far it's been good. We've been able to make a lot of progress with the setting and everything we've been putting into it. So I really appreciate everybody's feedback and input as we're going through all of this. If you're joining us in the chat, please jump into the conversation whenever you have something you'd like to say. We'll make sure we pull it in on screen and talk about it. If you're joining us after the fact and recording, and you're checking out the video on demand, then just go into the comments if you have something that you'd like to say or input of any kind you'd like to provide on the settings. So a little bit of a hiccup last week. I didn't get a chance to produce something to send out to the email list. So if you want to be a playtester, by the way, you can sign up in the video description for the playtest, and then that way you get copies of all this material that you can use to playtest at your own table. I didn't get a chance to do that. We had, as some of you already know, we had a hurricane that was coming to our area. We're fine. Our whole family's fine. Everybody that we know is pretty much fine. So pretty lucky and fortunate that we didn't have any issues on that front, but it did put a little bit of a hitch in the schedule for getting some things out. So I did make a little bit of progress on some things, but just not enough to be able to send out a new packet. So I'm hoping to get a playtest packet ready this weekend at some point to send out, and then hopefully by the next live stream we can talk them through. But in the meantime, we can share some things that we're doing now so that we can give you an update of what's been going on. So let me check the chat here. So hey Drew, good to see you. Let's go indeed. So always good to have you in the live stream when you can make it. Oh, and I just closed out my screen instead of you, so there we go. And hey Ben, good to see you. Yes, and we are all safe. Thank you very much for your kind words and everybody's input online and social media and everything. It was really nice of everybody to say something, so we appreciate that. There are a lot of other people that were way less fortunate than we were, so just keep them in your thoughts. Yeah, so we're gonna jump right in. I have a few things. Let's see. Oh, and that's right, Drew. You're in Florida too. So yeah, a lot of rain in Tampa. Already gotten food and stuff donated to go out to the peeps. Awesome. That's amazing. So I highly recommend anybody stateside, if you're able to do stuff, especially in Florida, to get some stuff together for everybody. So that's great that you did that. So I'm glad you're okay too. So I'm glad. Thanks for checking in. I don't know if they still do it. I think I did it. I'm not on Facebook a whole lot, but I know that they do the whole check-in if you're safe thing, which is nice, just to kind of let everybody know. So we are officially checking in right now that Crystal and Ethan, hello, you're in the live stream as usual. That's great. They're also safe. We were all together, so excellent. All right, so let me give you an update of where we are with the overall setting in general right now. I do need to reach out to one of the artists. I'm not mentioning names yet because until we've got everything signed and delivered and everything squared away, I don't want to say who's working on the project and all that stuff yet. I'm sure you'll understand. But I did miss an email, and I got to get back with one of the artists. She was reaching out to follow up, and I owe you that if you're watching. I will get back with you soon. We just had a lot of craziness. They're also Florida based, so they understand completely. But having said that, we have been reaching out to people to help with the setting. My good friend, as I mentioned before, the one name I will mention on this, Carrie, is helping with layouts, and he's already made some really great progress. I would love to be able to show you some of the things he put together, but it's just not at that level yet. And it's got placeholder art, which looks awesome because it's his art, but it's not the art that will be in the final setting yet. So, but just let me just say that it's looking good. We've got at least some good layouts in place. Let me adjust my sound settings here just in case the music was blasting you out a little bit. Let me bring that down. So we at least have some good layouts going right now. We've got some mock-ups for some things, because just to recap, what we're trying to do is to put together this sort of sample of here's what you can use, sort of a quick start guide to get things started. I want to get that one done so that when we launch the Kickstarter, everybody that may be contributing to the Kickstarter has something right off the bat that they can look at and see, this is what we're going to get. This is similar to what the final product's going to look like. So that's been good progress so far. The other thing is, we are also in this level of, I'm going back and forth. We have a lot of content. I'm just going to scroll. So we've got a lot of content already. It's not complete, obviously, but we've got everything from, mapping out what this thing is all about to, the realm in general. This is nothing new for those of you that have been following, but I'm just kind of scrolling through while I'm talking for those people that are catching this for the first time. But it'll also help me frame what I wanted to talk about today. So we give a little bit of an overview of the setting and the frights and how that works. And so I've been thinking, as I'm going through this information, about how do I format this, right? How do we put this together in a way that makes the most sense? Last time we talked a little bit about having sort of the field guide of what does it look like from an actual product perspective. So part of this setting is the things that you would expect out of a setting, the places, the NPCs, the things that you want to sort of flesh out the world that you're playing with at the table, the history of the Guardians, how the organization works, the structure, all of the different roles. I'm using roles because, again, this is going to be system agnostic, so you could consider them you could consider backgrounds if it was 5e, right? Apprentice, Guardian, and Elder could be a 5e background if you wanted to. But then we've also got things like the setting itself, like the forest and the Asteri Forge and all the lore and things around that. The badge system that we've recently talked about and started fleshing out, that you can use as an achievement way to mark the achievements of your players as they're going through. All of these things I think we've made really good progress on, and it's really coming together. And then the Guardian roles I was mentioning, these are sort of like the classes, right? So Protector, Explorer, and Keeper are sort of like our three basic classes. Then as we go through, here's where I'm going to focus today. I talked about the frights because the setting is also in some ways going to be setting guide and this field manual. And this field guide or field manual is the Guardians' notes and recollection and their journaling of the frights that have been encountered over the course of the Guardians' history, right? Or at least a portion of it. And so there may be multiple field guides that collect certain groups of frights depending on the different groups that have been adventuring and how they have recorded that information. So it's almost like I'm having to do this bestiary/monster manual along with the setting, because it's such a big part of how the setting works. The whole, what are the frights? How do we describe them? The varieties. So I've started putting together a few different things, and some of this is still in the works, as always, disclaimer on this. That's why it's got draft all over it. But like, how do we adapt it? So I'm trying to put together, how do we adapt and reskin a 5e monster to create your own fright? Because that, at the essence, I want every game master to be able to take whatever system they're doing, and I'm using 5e as an example, take a monster from the monster manual or whatever guide you have, reskin it and make it feel like a fright and make it work the way a fright would work. And I've already done that with a lot of the frights that we have. That's how I started some of them. But so what I'm going to do, and this again are just notes for me until I flesh this out, but this will turn into sort of a template that we can use as game masters. So we'll convert the name. So the original monster was, I don't know, the original monster was a purple worm. And then the new name for this monster, and the way the fright naming convention is, might be whatever, right? Then what's the aesthetic? So we can retain all of the basic, aesthetic and the features and the abilities of a purple worm. And that would be, and what's interesting is a purple worm is already purple. So we just need to make it translucent purple dark energy, right? So that's easy. But the the whole alternate appearance idea is something that I want to bake into the template, because the alternate appearance of a purple wormed themed fright might not be seeing anything at all. It might be tremors in the earth. It might be people thinking that there's an earthquake coming. It might be, an avalanche if it's in a snowy location. It might be all kinds of different things that the others perceive, and what the guardians and elders and everybody that can see the reality will have, their actual appearance there. There's probably some type of habitat and behavior that we want to go through. What type of fear does this fright exude? There's a lot of things here that we could go with. So what I did is I started, again, early days on this, I'm putting together a database, more for me so that I can, keep track of what I've got here. And I've got them grouped by category. So right now I just have a handful. I've got 11 in here. And the things that I'm trying to make sure that I cover in each one of these is, let's see. Purple, never considered purple worm. Yeah, no kidding, right? They're, classic, and you are correct. They are already a natural disaster. So it's easy to turn into the mundane thing. So what I did here, and this is just for me again, this is not what the final version will look like, but it's a way for me to capture some things. I've put together this sort of merge thing so that I can start pulling in and looking at each one of these individually after I get them in the database, and then I can fine tune it, update the database as I go. So I've got, in this entry of the field guide, I want to have, this will have art when we have the final version, right? It'll have, all of these things maybe handwritten, scrolled out. I don't know. We'll see. It'll have a drawing of what the fright looks like. Maybe both forms, maybe not, depending on what the true form and the false form end up being. But that's what we're going to start with. The name, the category of fright, and the description are sort of at the top. Then what's the false appearance, to make it easier for the GM to say, okay, this is how they're appearing in the realm. This is what everybody else is seeing or experiencing, because they don't have to see it, right? What's the true form? What are the known habitats that this fright can exist in? Then remember, we want to give some choices to our players. They don't always have to fight, although it's fun and they might fight quite a bit. But we also want to spread the word about how to protect yourself. After the Guardians go through, they sort of go, okay, here's how you can protect yourself against these types of frights, and they spread the message, right? So we've got warding effects, banishing effects, and then battle. And banishing and battle tend to go together, but there can be differences, and you'll see when we start looking at some. Any other important notes? Then this is where I have the flag for the message. So this is any songs, riddles, lore, pieces of superstitious things that you should do. All of those things that we kind of want to get baked into society, that they just do the way they are for us now with, knock on wood, when you want something to not, like when you don't want to mess something up and you want it to, be lucky and actually happen. So things like that, right? And then we have role-playing opportunities. I wanted each one of these entries, and this is really going to be sort of a game master note. So this will call out. It'll be a little bit separate from the page as a call out, and you've seen these in other things before. So when I merge this together, I get something like this. Again, this is just for me, not what the final version is going to look like. But we'll start kind of taking a look at these, and then you'll see how it kind of fits together. So creepies, we've already seen these, and these were the original night frights. They're now part of a category of night frights. When the sky grows dark and the stars hide away, the creepies roam free. Resembling bats, they are nearly invisible, but under the right light, their dark purple translucent forms can be spotted by those that can see frights. Often in groups, their soft flutters might be mistaken for night birds, but missing farm animals often tell a different story. Light is your shield against them. And then we talk about their false appearance. So invisible to most, seen only by those who can perceive frights. We know that. Their true form are bat-like and dark purple translucent body and needle-like mouth. Again, this was my take off of a Sturge in some ways. Like, to get the, if you look at D&D classic Sturge, I wanted to, you know, take that as inspiration and then do something different with it. Warding against them, we know from the sessions that we've had and the adventures that we put together in playtest that crafted light, so candles, lanterns, or torches, will keep them away. You can banish them through the normal things, a starry steel, iron, wood, or magic. If you know, do some damage and it weakens them, they will dissipate and banish. But also in battle, you know, you're going to be using all of those same things. If there was something else here, I could add it, and I've done that with others. So sometimes there are other ways that you can banish besides just the normal ways, and I might add something here to make sure that each one of the frights have another way to banish them besides battle. We've got the message here, so we've got that same poem or similar poem. I might have revised it a little bit, but be wary of cloudy nights with no rain. It means a fright could visit again. Nights without stars or shining moon will bring a fright sometime soon. But no fear for those who can prepare. The fright is the one who should beware. Make ready your torch, lantern, or candle. The light is more than frights can handle. Let's make that frights. Then for role-playing opportunities, so they may encounter them in dark, starless nights, and they use light sources and things like that to ward them off. So you can see this is just a quick, you know, description. I'm also going to be fleshing this out. This is just notes for now, but I'll probably have additional roleplay opportunity notes to kind of make it easy for a GM to know when they may want to use these types of creatures in the game. We also had the Night Fright. I have enhanced this a little bit since the last appearance of the Night Fright in one of the adventures. It's a telltale sign of deception. So the Night Fright is, well, let me read. Emerging near those with untruths, they appear as dark purple armored specters. They, though they may intimidate with their armor, they fear the pure-hearted. Their march, steady and echoing, serves as a reminder to always walk in honesty. So these frights appear when people have been lying. So they have a false appearance, but it's not that they're gonna look a different way. Even they won't do that. They just don't appear at all. They remain invisible, and they basically appear in the way that people sense them being around because they start feeling guilty, or they remember sometimes that they lied, and they get that feeling of, I'm sort of, you know, feeling this whole guilt-ridden thing from having told those lies before, so it may make me stop in my tracks, kind of thing, or may make me go back and think about what I did. So that's the feeling that they give off, rather than being a physical presence to those who can see them or can't see them. You know, they look just like they did before. They're attracted to deceit, and they're repelled by truth. So what does this mean? Well, they're drawn only to liars, so telling the truth can help ward against them. But you can battle them just like any other thing. So it's possible that during the battle, enough lore is given during the course of a mission that they could actually fight this Night Fright with a K by admitting, hey, last year I was told that I was supposed to go, fetch water from the well, and I said that I did it, and I put the water in the livestock's water bin, but I didn't do it that night like I said I was going to do it, and I didn't do it until the next morning. I lied to my mom about it, or whatever it might be. And then that lie goes away, and they diminish a little bit. And so the idea is that we can actually fight them by, hitting them with all of our Asteri weapons and throwing magic at them. But clever players may also realize that telling the truth or admitting to a lie may also diminish them in a way. So it's a way of sort of creating this whole, feel for them, in a similar way that like the old fairy tales would do. We can kind of take a page from that and play it here. So it's very interesting. Like they feel a little bit weaker. And again, this is the point of having so many of these. They may not be for every group, and so don't use it. Right? Like if it works for, if you think it's going to work at your table, then great. Modify it, whatever. But at least it gives sort of a way for the the players to kind of figure out another way besides just blatant combat. I'm going to go ahead and check the chat. So, yes, the subject of fright appearing can tell the truth and weaken it. Yeah, exactly. So you can play with this idea, and you'll see that there's a few others that are similar to this concept that I'm trying to work in. The deceit angle for the night frights, it takes like the solid NPC role-playing hooks for the, but exactly. So, why, and here's the cool thing about stuff like this is once they've encountered a few of these frights before, and then they start hearing the rumors that are going around, the players might actually start putting it together and going, oh, I wonder if that is a night fright because there's rumors that this person is being a dishonest businessman and cheating out his customers at that general store. Maybe that's what's coming in and messing with people because of his dishonest business practices or whatever it might be, right? So you can take this in a lot of different directions. All right, so we've got our good old Ironbane fright, and this is in the category I put together called Blight Frights. So Blight Frights are things that affect an area or things like a blight. So these frights have affinity for metal, and their presence is marked by metallic reverberations and the sudden rusting of metal. They may first appear as stray dogs, just like they did in our adventure, but to those who can truly see, they're armored behemoths with glowing claws, and we've got those tentacles and all those other things. I left it kind of vague so you could, it's basically like a rust monster, right? So you can make it however you'd like. Again, here, what I do is, kind of point out the whole ringing bells or whistles. So not just the whistle, but the ringing bell. And this is one of the reasons that, if you remember in our adventure, and I kind of retconned this to make it work through playtest. That's kind of what you do, right? They wouldn't. This Ironbane fright wasn't coming to the smith's forge while she was there. It was rusting things when she wasn't there, and that was because of the ringing of the hammer. As the hammer was hitting the anvil and that piercing sound, it was driving away the fright. But as soon as it stopped at night, fright could come in and rust all the stuff, and that's why she was having to remake things, and it was kind of going that way. So then we've got the message here: hear a whistle, ring a bell, against the rust it will do well, hear it near, don't let it pass, ring a whistle, ring and whistle, and it won't last. So just, spreading the word so that people kind of get it into the whole, it's a nursery rhyme, it's something that you just sing, it's a children's thing that you use while you're jumping rope, whatever you want to do. But then it becomes part of, the underground mentality of this is how you spread the message about what's going on, because again, most adults, almost all adults, can't perceive these things. So how do you protect against something if you don't know they're there? So this is the way to do it. You get the kids and the elders in the world to help you make it happen. Got the crop creepers. We've seen this one before. I won't go into too deep. This is the whole into the wheat thing where you make a deal with the tiny fairy folk and you leave them, a little treat, and they'll take care of the crop creepers for you. So this is one of those things where, yes, you could go through and you could fight and you could do the magic and all that other stuff, or you could make a deal so that you spread the word and people leave their little, pastry of the first harvest. Maybe if you're a wheat field and you make some kind of cake or something after you've done your harvest, you leave it out there and they'll protect your field. So it's just a way to like bring in others into this. And yes, retconning is the GM's best friend, and we do it all the time. So and really it's kind of the point of playtesting where we go, oh yeah, if I had known that then, let's fix it so it works better moving forward. So I love using the word playtest because basically what it means is test it out and then change stuff, and if you liked it, you change it and retcon it and make it like that's always been that way, right? So yeah, this is a new one. I've got some plans for other adventures. This is a memory mist, and these are psych frights. And psych frights are things that affect your memory or your perception or your attitude, that kind of thing. So these elusive mists thrive in places of emotional significance, like leaving a trail of forgotten moments in their wake. So it could appear like a cloud of purple energy for those that can see the true form, but for everybody else, you're not really seeing it. You're just kind of like, I can kind of remember what's going on. I can't remember where I put this thing. I don't remember meeting this person. Playing with the whole memory thing, right? And so the ward against this, believe it or not, and you'll probably pick up on this, is tying knots or using memory aids. So, like, if you tie a knot, a double knot, it will help protect you against this. This comes from the whole idea of tying a string around your finger to remember something. I just took that and worked with it into whatever, but it doesn't necessarily have to be around your finger. You could make this be a knot around the fence post, or take a piece of string and tie a knot around the door pole so that you remember to get something before you leave, or whatever it might be. So just this idea of something that we do in our world that can be translated a little bit into this fantasy realm, and then it serves as a purpose. And I didn't want to go too deep into this. I just wanted to make it so this could be a funny caper with people just forgetting things. It doesn't have to go serious with this. It could be, you forget you meet the person and then you have to introduce yourself over and over. I can imagine NPCs or GMs having a lot of fun with NPCs that have to introduce themselves every time someone walks in. There's a lot of fun that can be had here, right? So, it's just a fun way to do it. This one, I actually pulled from what we did, or what I did on the fly in the last home game that we had, where I took one of the starter adventures and ran it from a D&D 5e Rime of the Frost Maiden sort of kickoff thing, and it had some awakened animals. Instead of them being awakened animals, I had it so that one of the frights was affecting the animal. So these are beast bullies, and these psych frights, they can take a once docile creature, or maybe not, maybe it's a wild animal, but it's just acting way differently. So now it becomes more aggressive, and they try to turn these animals into foes, or to make them more prone to hurting other people or trying to cause mischief. So there are ways to release the animal's true nature. One is if you do the normal, and I'm not saying do the normal fighting thing because I don't think it's fun. It is. I just want to give more options. So the normal ways I'll skip over because we know what those are: the Asteri, the Ironwood, the magic, all that stuff can happen. But another thing that can do this is by potentially, and I think I put this in, hopefully I didn't leave it out. I didn't. Okay, so tracing circles. So I'm going to write this a little bit better because my notes were going, but creating a circle around the animal. So that might mean distracting it long enough to draw a circle in the earth with a stick or something all the way around the creature, and that might work. It might mean joining hands around the circle and just trusting that as you do that, it will be okay. And perhaps singing a song. So we've got circle round on the ground, and the animal's joy will soon be found. Right. So things like that can break the hold of the fright on the animal without having to get into the whole I've got to hit it with the spear, so just options. I'm not saying you can't do that, but just giving some options. And I'm trying to leave enough room for the GM to do it in a way that they want to do it without being too prescriptive. Again, work in progress. So let me check over here. So I like the memory mist. It struck me that a will of wisp would make a great fright. This is exactly where you can go with this. So will of wisp is a great a great monster from a lot of legend, but in D&D especially, that you could use as a template for this, and it'd be perfect. Just wrote down in my notes, fright leeches. Yeah, yeah, that sounds scary and awesome. And perhaps causing minor debuffs to some of the NPC. Yeah, no, absolutely. So anything that you can think of that, you can put a spin on it. And again, for this setting at least, physical damage isn't as much of a thing as its energy drain, to the point of if they go down and they can't come back up, it's I can't perceive the frights anymore, right? So that's the example of, all right, you're still alive, you just can't do this stuff anymore. So that's kind of where we go with this. So any creature or monster that you want to bring in. Water wisps. I promise I wasn't leading you into the will-o-wisp. This was just a name that I came up with. It might not be the right one, but we'll see. All these names are harder than I thought they would be to come up with, trying to make them kid-friendly, not too crazy, fit anyway, you get it. So these are elemental frights, and they are kind of what you figure they are. It's some type of water creature that does stuff water-like, and then you can ward against them with a lot of different things. The one way that I think would be great is to skip stones. So skipping stones on the water might be a great way to ward against any water wisps coming up. So why not? So this is yeah. Loving fright leeches. It's a terrifying image. Yep, I know. Let's see. Yeah, I was gonna say, I know Crystal's already not good with that one. So, yep, excellent. So yeah. So then we've got, again, the next category seems obvious for the elementals. You got the fire frights. What I did want to do here was, um, there is potential here to also teach something. I know that sounds lame, but it is kind of fun to be able to do this. So you can actually have the message around this being douse and stir, let no ember claim, always smother your campfire's flame. And so part of what these frights could be are when sparks from campfires that weren't properly snuffed out, that generates the fire fright, right? So you could take a spin on this and reinforce, if you're going camping and you're starting a fire, you need to be careful of the environment, you need to do what you need to do. So there's a lot of elements that you could work in to some of these just to make them not only fun and you're still fighting a fire monster, but it kind of gets a point across about like what good best practices are for going camping or something. Or, and in this case, in a world that is set in a time period where there's campfires or fireplaces or all kinds of things all the time, may make good sense. Wind wraiths, like I said, you can imagine what it does and how to describe that. Although I would say it's mainly not a creature that most people see. The false appearance is wind and tornado and all kinds of seemingly natural phenomena based on wind and air elemental type things. Now, for this, instead of skipping a stone, I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have a feather and have the feather be tossed into the wind and float on the wind, and doing that then calms the wind down, because it's almost as if the feather is floating intentionally. I don't know, I haven't wrapped my head around that, but I needed something. So like the essence of like skipping a stone but letting the feather kind of get caught on the wind or a leaf or whatever it might be could be a way of warding against or helping banish it. It doesn't have to make complete sense as from a scientific standpoint, because it's fantasy and it's supposed to be a superstition type thing, any more than throwing the salt over the shoulder is just superstition. But hey, that's what people do. So that's what we're kind of going for with some of these. And so if you can imagine that the wind is starting to pick up and the storm is coming, and people go, ooh, is there a leaf or a feather somewhere I wonder if this will be as bad as we thought. And they just kind of do that to see where the wind's going. And for normal wind and normal storms, yeah, that's not going to do much. But for those wind wraiths, it's like, I'm gonna not mess with these people. They're gonna get prepared anyway and do what they're gonna do. Maybe I just have the hurricane in my mind. I don't know, but we'll see. Lastly, on the elemental side, we got the Terra Tricksters. It is what it is. I love the idea of one of the ways to ward against them is to. Some people do this when they go visit places. They put a little earth, they get some sand or some soil or something, and they put it in a jar as they go somewhere. I felt like this would be a good way of like calming things down, like containing what's going on. So this may be a way of just a mundane way of getting a jar, putting some earth in it, and that might be a good way of doing it. I'm trying to also vary songs and rhymes and superstition things like this. So I'm trying to have a good mix as we go through. I'm going through this just really quickly. So, all right, last one. And this was one that I had from the Missing Elder adventure. I don't even know if I got that one released. If I didn't, I will. From the Missing Elder adventure, we had a dragon fright, which, let's face it, if people are wanting to play a game like Dungeons and Dragons or something else, they're going to want to face one at some point. So the dragon frights are going to come in different forms. This one happens to be based a little bit on a blue dragon, so I turned this into the storm serpent, and so this one is very much the whole lightning based type thing. This is more of a big deal fright. So we've got, you know, a lot of things that come into, you know, figuring out when you want to use something like this, or it really is going to be, if you're playing a game like D&D, or your character is up for fighting something like this, right? So, you know, use this at your discretion. You could also tone it down to give them the experience without having to go overboard with combat and all those type of things. From a role-playing perspective, and from a superstition and a best practices perspective, grounding stones and ashwood branches are able to absorb charges, so this might help this might help calm things down a little bit and keep them away. I don't know, from the area. We'll see. Still working on it, but let's see. Elemental frights all seem to fit the scouting aspect. Yeah. Another easy reskin I found in the monster manual is Mephits. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, already seem to fit to the. And you could take like a Mephit and make that into one of these two. It's perfect. Yeah. I love being able to reskin things that are already there. It just makes the whole concept better. Yes, we need dragons. Absolutely. I get it. So part of this again is there's going to be a two-pronged approach here. One is I want to give a good variety of frights, and I'm still working through them, but a good enough variety that it gives an idea of what can be done with the concept of using frights in the game. The second prong of the two-pronged approach is to then show or to provide a template that a game master can use to take an existing monster of whatever system we're in and then adjust it to make it a fright, reskin it into the fright. Vampiric half-dragon Tarask Lich fright. I'm already scared of all of that, and I would love to have that happen at some point. Just to say that I was able to go up again. Let me just say, Tarask is probably one of the scariest things I've had in a campaign. I actually did have a Tarask, which was not good. But yeah, it can always go overboard, and if your players are up for it, have fun. So that's what it's all about. So yeah, so this is kind of where I am. Like I said, I am still plugging away best I can, trying to get these kind of wrapped in, working on, you know, refining even the template and what I want to include, and then also the template for adjusting and adapting and reskinning to go in there. We still have all these unseen allies that are also going to need to be brought in as well. So I'm going to be working on those to make sure. And then the other part of this is how do you do adventures? So I'm planning to release, you know, at least 1 to 2 adventures with the setting, sort of example adventures in the book. And then I'm hoping to do ongoing after that, at least maybe have some way of doing add-on adventures to make it easier for the game masters. So we'll see, but at least we'll start with some adventures in the book that they can use to kind of at least get the feel for what it's like. All right, I'm gonna check the chat. Oh yeah, okay, yep. Sorry, Drew, I already put you up there. And no, yep. All right. Yeah, and Ben was already. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm behind the curve on the laughing about the vampiric half dragon Tarask Lich Fright. All right. So that was mainly everything I had. Let me give it a minute and let those of you that are in the chat go ahead and hit me up with any other questions or thoughts you might have, requests that you think are important to include in what we're putting together, things that are working at your table that you'd like to share. Any of those things. I'll just keep talking for a second while you guys are catching up in the chat since there's a little bit of a delay. But I think it's important to kind of hear what people are doing at their table. A couple things while I'm waiting for those comments to come in, hopefully. I am hopefully going to be getting a couple or at least one interview going soon related to kids stuff. So please stay tuned to the channel. I'm hoping to at least shine a little bit more light on another group of people. Well, I've already done the D&D Adventure Club. I'm hoping to do an interview with that group, so look for that soon. And then I want to highlight, if you're not familiar with his work, JP Couvert has a channel on YouTube and does a bunch of really good kid-friendly stuff. Here, let me see, since I'm over here. Maybe, there we go. While I'm doing this, let me bring in some from the chat. So I've been giving my daughter a few different options for quests to do. Here's a village affected by a fright effect here, or a river being haunted. That way she can pick her own quest. No, that's awesome. I love the picking the own quest thing, which is really, really interesting. So how do you get on the new rule? How did you all get on with the new rule set, new dice rolling mechanics? Oh, yeah, really great question. And I'll come back over to this while we do. So I'll let so let me pull over, like, choose your own adventure kind of thing. Yeah, choose your own adventure thing is great. I like having the options and having them pick some things. It reminded me of something else, so I'll come back to it. But Ben, as far as how things went with the new dice mechanic, at least from our small table's perspective, and again, you got to remember that this is me and Crystal and Ethan playing, and they've had to go through a bunch of different things with me as we're playtesting. It went really well, actually. I think that I took the time to explain the sheet front and back as before we started, just to make sure that we were all on the same page and how things worked. And yeah, I made some adjustments. Ben, I think you were in last time. I'm not sure. Move is something that everybody can do as an action. There's no need to roll for it. So when you choose to move, you just move up to your max speed. So that was, really good. It didn't make any effects there. Rolling with advantage and disadvantage, you can still add your proficiency dice. So we made that change because I felt like it was a little punitive to not be able to use your proficiency dice on disadvantage. So no matter what, if you're rolling, you get to use your proficiency dice if you're proficient in something. So there's a few changes that we made on the fly, and then we've made into the new updated version. So I'll make sure everything goes out, but it went really well. So let me, yeah, so this is pretty fair. So Ben, once we nailed it down, it worked really well. It was much more simple and streamlined for Ethan to understand. So that helps, right? Like I think it's good to hear it from the players. So they're the players talking about it. Now, having said that, it's an optional system. If you love playing 5e, play 5e. If you love playing Pathfinder, play Pathfinder. If you want to play some OSR game, play that. It's just a system that we were trying to test out so that we could launch this with something and go with it. And I'm going to make that really clear in the book, in the setting guide. Now, highly recommend checking out JP Kuvert's YouTube channel. He also has a Patreon where you can actually download all this stuff and become as your patron. I recently signed up for his Patreon so that he sends adventure, like a physical adventure. It's about the same size as the D&D Adventure Club. It's a 5.5 inch by 8.5 inch booklet type format, like a zine. And you can tell, like, it's really great stuff. I think this Flick Silverpen's Guide to Dragontown is a really good example of, and he hand draws all the artwork. He's an artist and an illustrator. He's had his stuff, I think it was in Macy's. He did some t-shirts and stuff for them. He had one of his maps actually was a Macy's thing. So if you get a chance to check it out, it's definitely more like on the kid side of thing, but it's really, really well done. And you know, I will be borrowing ideas, not wholesale, but I just love how he's thought things through. So I've been watching a lot of his YouTube videos and really just learning from him a little bit about how to do some stuff. So I highly recommend you check out. He's got a lot of stuff available. Not any way affiliated with him at all. He probably doesn't know who I am. I'm just letting you know. I think it's something that you can mine for kids games. So which is really fun. Let me come back over to the chat. She feels the joy of her getting better as opposed to the items getting better. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, right? Like, sometimes it's more about the stuff that you get rather than you and your abilities getting better. And there's a fine line to that, right? So, because, and I agree with exactly what you're saying, Drew, because I feel like that's the way to feel character growth and to feel like you're making your character better during the game. The other side of that, though, is that a lot of people still want to go get things. They want to go adventure and get treasure, and that's completely valid too. But there's a way to balance that, I think. So, but I love that she's already feeling that. Like, if you can keep that going, that's a huge check mark in the role play column. So, so yeah. So and. Yeah, no, it's a great resource, and I think you go down that rabbit hole. Once you start researching one, you'll start uncovering others. So there's a lot of good stuff out there. Yeah, so I feel as if we made a little bit of progress talking about some stuff. I promise I'll get out another version of playtest materials as soon as I can. I'm hoping to have an update with you, or at least something I can kind of give you an idea of where things are going. I feel like right now you're seeing a lot of text documents with not much art. And if I can get at least a glimpse of something in front of you at some point in the future, even if it's just like, you know, a potential way that a quick start guide might look, it'll build some excitement. The one thing I can ask is just the best way you can support this project and the channel in general is to share as many things as you can. If you have social media, if you can, you know, post and point people our way that maybe they'll be interested in something like this, and they can, you know, join us when the Kickstarter campaign starts. I would love that. It's going to be a group effort getting the word out. So really appreciate all that you have been doing to help as we've been going. So awesome. Oh. One other thing, I will be putting out in the next playtest packet, there will be a link where you can, you've already signed up for the playtest, and now you're on the mailing list, and all that stuff is good. But there was a question, I think it was Ben that mentioned this last time about like how can we maybe get some art submissions in or things like that. I'm working on something like that where we can maybe be able to contribute some fright ideas and things like that as part of what we do with the Kickstarter. So I promise I'll give you an update as soon as I have more information. So yeah, looking forward to being able to share that with you too. So all right, everybody, have a great evening. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and we will catch you next time. And For those of you that, again, are catching on to this and really picking up steam and looking at this for the first time, there's a playtest that, not a playtest, this is the playtest stuff. There is a playlist that explains this whole project in detail, so check the description below, and you can get caught up pretty quickly on what we're doing, and figure out if you want to contribute. All right, everybody, have a great night. Talk to you later.